Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Marnie. We're two broke teachers who love to travel. Our years of experience traveling on a budget have given us insight into the best and most affordable ways to see the world. Now, we want to share our adventures and knowledge with you.
Follow along as we share tips, tricks, and hacks to help you travel the world without breaking the bank. This is Broke Teacher Travel Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Broke Teachers Travel Podcast, Episode 7. I'm Marnie.
And I'm Jeff.
And today we're going to be talking about traveling with teens. That's right, teenagers.
And it's something that I very much enjoyed. When our children reached that age, there was a lot of trials and some tribulations too we had to go through, but it was a great time, and some of the greatest memories of my life were traveling with them.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. We learned so much about each other, I think, as people when we traveled with them as teens. So good.
Now, one of the things that, just like any trip, I love to be spontaneous. Marnie loves to be spontaneous. There's a lot of cool things of doing that, but there's got to be an outline of a plan, okay? So before you hit the road or board the plane, talk to your kids, your teenagers, about interests that they have.
Yeah, that is so important because it gets lost sometimes, I think. Everybody thinks of like a family vacation. But if you're traveling with teens, you've got to remember they're becoming adults and they need to have their interests taken into account as well.
And one of the things that I've just kind of came to mind as we were talking about this, before you plan this, maybe you as a family want to sit down and watch National Lampoon's vacation series, because some of those things that the kids get into and the parents get into, well, it's based on reality.
Yeah.
Some of those things do happen, okay? Okay.
Definitely. Remember, though, one of the biggest things that you can think about when you're traveling with teens, pack your patience. We've said this before about kids. It's important. Pack your patience. Make sure you remember that teens can sometimes be emotional. That's what we'll use. Emotional. They want to be considered adults. They are striving to be mature. They want that independence and freedom. And this is a great opportunity to help them experience some of that, I think.
And what we need to do is we need to kind of jog our memories and remember about us being a teen. And it wasn't always easy.
No, it's not.
Sometimes it's very, very hard to be a teenager. And also remember that, we still have the same thoughts and feelings. They still have the same thoughts and feelings that we had when we were teens, but times have changed, and the world we grew up in is not quite the same world that they're growing up in, and we kind of need to take a note of some of that.
I definitely agree with that. Things have changed a lot. Some of the basics stay the same things they go through, but there are a lot of things that they are experiencing now that we have no idea how we would have coped with some of these things.
I see and you see, I'm sure as a teacher as well, that so many times that there are situations, there were some today in my line of work that, man, I never had to deal with that. And so now we have to, but they're growing up at a different time than ours. So, just remember that, have some empathy for them.
Yes. One of the things that I think is important to remember when you're planning your vacation with your teens is to make an agreement ahead of time about cell phone use and earbud use. I know this sounds weird. They're tied to their friends. That is their form of communication with their friends. Where we would call somebody or go hang out, they're doing everything online now. And that is an important tie to them, an important bond. And it's very important to establish how much time that they have to spend with you, that they don't need to be online or don't need to be listening to their music. Give them some freedom on that, but set some guidelines, but do it together.
And that's one of the things, like I was mentioning earlier, when we think about our lives as young people, we could go 3 or 4 or 5 days without talking to our friends. We didn't have to have that. Well, kids today, the worst punishment you could give a teenager is to take away their cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you want to cause behavior change and maybe them to temporarily hate you, take away that phone. But when you're traveling, make sure that they're if it's something that they're really into, make sure that they still have contact with their friends or their, what is it? Facebook,
Instagram,
yeah,
Twitter,
all of that
Snapchat,
stuff.
yeah, all of them,
Yeah,
all the social media.
So
outlets.
Snapbook and FaceChat.
Oh,
I'm okay. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so make sure you set those rules ahead of time. And for mom and dad, you may kind of want to set those rules for yourself too, because I know sometimes, I do love my books that I online. I do love those kind of things, but don't let that take away from the vacation. But put it there in small doses.
Yeah, and I mean, their cell phones are important tools too. They can use those to take pictures, to look up things they're looking at, that they're in front of. That can be valuable information for them as well. So don't take it out completely by any means. They need that. But do talk about limiting it maybe just a little bit.
And one thing, we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think, but when we're talking about cell phones, wherever you're going, you could have them go ahead and download a map of where they're at and, save it. So if they do lose service or something, they still have that map.
Yeah. Didn't you say something about chargers earlier, I think?
Absolutely. That's one of the big things that bring extra chargers. I bring extra chargers where I go. And when I say extra chargers, I usually take a couple, enough to keep my phone going for 48 hours. And that may sound crazy at first, but again, when you're out taking pictures, where you're having videos, when you have things like that, you want to have access to those chargers and understand that, for some people on some journeys, it's a once in a lifetime experience. And even though the destination may not be a once in a lifetime experience, as a family,
the memories are.
The memories are. And if we could just temporarily capture those and, online, let's make sure we do that. There's been several places I've been and my phone went dead and I'm like, and it broke my heart that I missed those. And for kids, it's the same thing. They miss those shots. So make sure that you have plenty of extra phone chargers, batteries, whatever you call them, that they plug in.
My favorite kind personally, it's not a specific brand, but the kind that can plug into the wall and be a portable charger. Those are lifesavers because you can plug it in the wall overnight, charge your phone, and just take the whole package the next day, and you have a portable charger as well.
And make sure, and we'll mention this in additional podcasts, but if you're going out of the country, make sure you have the adapter, okay?
Yes.
Because when you board a plane and you get to the Atlanta or New York airport and you realize you didn't bring that adapter and you pay $60 for something you could have got.
Not that anyone in this family has done that before.
Okay. But, the same stuff you could get at Ross for $10, you end up paying $60 for the exact same product. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay. And something else to think about with teens is freedom within safe boundaries. Let them have some freedom. They need to learn to explore the world and be a part of it and meet people and know how to be an adult in this world. So give them a little bit of freedom, but within some set boundaries. Let them go to the gelato store. Let them go look at the Trevi Fountain while you're in a shop just down the road. Let them, wander the grounds of the hotel that you're staying at as long as you know that it's safe.
And there's
things like that.
And obviously there's going to be a difference with a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Absolutely.
And so,
absolutely.
And so just keep that in mind as part of the planning. I know that we talked in our last podcast about with seniors, but it's one of those things that I would recommend with any kids of any ages. And teenagers, they probably won't like this, but one of the little tracker things that you talked about, just in case they do get lost and they're like, and they panic, you know how to do that. You know how to get there.
Because teenagers will still panic.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Adults will panic. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I have. I mean, I have been in a situation where I'm like, wait a minute. I know where I'm at, but I've got to figure this out. And you just have to take that breath. But sometimes when you're a teen, you're not there yet. You're not ready to take that breath and figure it out. So give them a little insurance that way by having that tracker.
And again, the same thing. Make sure that you have them take a picture of the address of the hotel. Make sure you have a hard copy of that on a note card that they could stick in their wallet or in their purse, just in case they get separated. It's, when you go to some of these big cities, there's, millions of people there, and, you see somebody with your a hat on that's similar, and then you think it's your kid and it's not. And, again, that hasn't happened to me personally yet. I hope it never does. But those are things. And so one of the things you want kids to feel comfortable with is knowing where they're at. And one of the cool things, and I was very apprehensive about this on one of our first tours, where they gave the kids a map and they showed them how to use it, and they showed them the app to download, and then they said, all right, we'll meet you back here in 2 hours. And I'm like, whoa, let's
we
not
panicked.
We panicked. But understand that kids know how to use the apps. They know how to use those things. And so, again, like Marnie said, within safe boundaries. When you're at Disney, there's, I still to this day, with my son and daughter, if we're somewhere, I constantly look behind me to make sure they're still with me.
By the way, they're grown and married now.
Yeah.
We still do it.
But it's one of those things. But teach them how to use public transportation, especially. Most large cities in the U.S. have some sort of public transportation, and almost all the countries in Europe and Asia have some sort of public transportation.
Yeah, and show them how to use the walking directions on their phone as well, on their maps on their phone, because sometimes I think people forget that that's there. Everybody uses it for driving directions, and they forget that you can use the walking directions on there. So if you're in a big city, that can be really helpful. One of the things that I would like to hit on too is put aside some extra money for snacks and just spending money for souvenirs, or help them set some aside, because teenagers like things. They like things that aren't always cheap and that add up to a lot of money, like coffees, fancy coffees every day, or
Legos,
maybe, like a souvenir shirt or something like that. Give them that opportunity to build a memory of their own for the trip. I think that's important to them, because it gives them a little bit of investment in the vacation. Like they feel a part of it then.
And one thing that, with teenagers, we're on the go, they're on the go. And sometimes, I always make fun of Marnie and my daughter. Whenever there's certain things they want to see, they've got a new gear and they can move. And me and my son are like, what the heck? And then you drop me off at a battlefield and everybody's like, I'm like, come on. So you're going to be tired. And one of the most important things you need to remember is to do what?
Rest.
A
lot. Yeah. Sleep. Sleep is so important to teenagers. It is more important, honestly, than for small children. Teenagers need a lot of sleep. So schedule your day a little later, and that's helpful. Don't get them up as soon as the sun's up. Let them sleep in a little bit. Let them have that little bit of extra time before they get rolling for the day. Trust me, everyone will be happier.
And there's nothing wrong with parents. We don't mind sleeping in a little bit later too. But, when you have a disgruntled teen who wants to sleep, that's that could be something.
Everybody's going to be miserable.
Yeah, that could be what do we call them in education? Barriers.
Yes, it's a barrier.
And but yet, whenever we travel overseas, remember, build in for that jet lag.
Yes.
That those kids, it's different. And so many, if you take a tour, understand most of those cases you hit it running. Okay. And so people can say sleeping on the plane is not like sleeping.
Some people can.
Yeah. It's not
I'm not one.
Yeah. And so, I'm groggy sometimes whenever I do that, and I could sleep for 3 or 4 hours on a plane. I know that for my kids, whenever we did our first transatlantic flight, they had a problem with the jet lag, and
they didn't sleep.
And in that whole first day, and even with Marnie, as we're talking about it now, it's like, man, I barely remember doing this, and I barely remember doing that. So, just like with any vacation, maybe try to build in a day to just kind of acclimate, an acclimation day.
Yeah, I think that's so important for everybody.
Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about today is something that is very near and dear to my heart. There's a lot of cool things out there, and a lot of us have a lot of variety of interest. Don't force your teenagers to enjoy the vacation of your dreams, okay? Because the things that you dream about and your kids dream about are probably totally different.
Yeah, they are. I mean, not only are they teenagers, they're different people. They are not you. They may share some interests with you, but overall, they're going to find other things that interest them. And I think yeah, you hit a really important one there. I think that you need to remember that what you like is not necessarily what they're going to like. So don't force them to try to enjoy the things that you want to see. Just like you were talking about earlier with the battlefields.
Right.
Not my thing. I mean, I will go with you and I will look at everything, but not really my thing.
Well, and it's so funny because, it's a give and take. And even with your kids, my daughter, our great trade-off is one of my favorite ones to New York City was she gets a custom pair of Converse from some
the Converse store,
in New York City, and I get to go to a couple cemeteries, which she told me I have a very unhealthy obsession with dead people, which
she brings it up.
She brings it up sometimes, but just remember that, and one of the things. Just be respectful for anybody you're traveling with, your kids especially, because, like I said, your dream vacation may not be theirs. I know that when I went to the military museum in Paris, I could stay there for 4 or 5 days. I could go every day for a month. And yet I sit there and I'm like, well, how selfish am I being if my kids are like, yeah, this is cool, but then they're sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, so sometimes, I travel by myself because that way I get to do what I want to do. But if we're traveling as families, which are the most sincere and greatest memories to me, everybody, again, another educational word, all stakeholders, have a say in it.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Another thing you need to remember is to build in some downtime to your trip, not just the day at the end, but during the day. Build in a little bit of downtime so that your kids have time to kind of chill. Let them maybe you go downstairs to the lobby, get something to drink, get a snack or something like that, and give them a little time in the room to maybe call their friends or text their friends or just put their headphones on and chill a little bit. I think they need that. They need that little bit of privacy and that little bit of downtime.
A couple of other things. And first of all, I want to thank you guys that have commented or sent us suggestions or, hey, this works for us and it doesn't. 2 suggestions we had today was, what was it that our niece told us?
Oh, let the teenager who is old enough drive if you're doing a road trip. Give them that experience. That's awesome. I love that tip.
Now, we're not talking about downtown Atlanta or somewhere,
No.
But, if it's safe and they've driven some, maybe let them take, 30 minutes or an hour and, just chill out about the time. Let them go as slow as they want to.
Yeah, a couple hours on the interstate if they want to try that. Let them go. It's great experience for them, especially driving in other places. That's really important.
And one of the other ones that is kind of a different generational kind of thing is at least for boys, and I'm not sure with girls, but their video games, their consoles,
girls play them too.
Okay. Yeah. We used to play some Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And Street Fighter. Okay. I remember that, but that was Street Fighter 1.
Spinning sidekick is all I have to say.
Oh, that hurt literally. Okay. But let them take, if it's definitely a road trip and you're going to be spending time in a hotel, maybe take it, limit it, but say, hey, if you want to take this, you could take and, play it an hour a day. And again, like Marnie said earlier, and re-emphasizing the cell phone, kind of have that already arranged, because I could tell you still at my age with my kids, even though they're grown, I would love to play a game of I Spy. Okay.
Yeah.
And so those are some of those things.
And the one my daughter keeps bringing up too, that is a fantastic idea, especially with teenagers. Let them take pictures and meme them. It is so much fun. It is a blast. She sends things to me all the time, pictures that we've taken of our family through the years with memes, even though they're old pictures. And
offensive sometimes.
It's the ones she takes when you're not expecting it. Those are the worst, but they're hilarious. They are so much fun, and everybody can get in on it. It makes it a family event, and it, like I said, it's just fun.
And use that technology sometimes to bring yourselves together
Yeah.
rather than to totally isolate ourselves. And that's one thing as a almost nearly a 30-year teacher that I'm 100% against this, and this. But when I see what kids can do with their cellular devices or
Yeah.
with the the internet, it really amazes me what they can do. And so maybe, hey, who has the best meme, the meme of the day, and things of that nature.
Or make a movie.
Oh, that would be good. Or
Yeah, because there are apps and you can make movies in them, and it is fantastic. Let them make a movie of the whole vacation and put it together. It's pretty cool.
and I see a lot of the kids, before school and after school making those TikTok videos. And again, it's not something that's in my wheelhouse, but they seem to enjoy it. So, maybe, mom or dad, get involved in one of their videos, because I can promise you 20 years from now, it will be the funniest thing with
Yeah.
the warmest, heart that you could see.
Yes, definitely. And one of the last things that I want to talk about is allow them to bring a friend. That can be a game changer for getting them involved in a vacation. We've done it.
Absolutely. We've done that several times. When we used to work at Disney, we would often get my son friends, and they would come down with us. And some of the best memories is to see the 3 or 4 of those guys come out. One of the greatest birthday parties ever was they came down and we kind of surprised him, and that was a really cool thing. One other thing that someone had mentioned was, can you explain those units that you were talking about?
Oh, yeah. If you stay in like a timeshare resort type situation, a great way to give your teens some independence is if you get one of the lockout, I guess suites is what you would call it, where you have the main portion that has like 2 bedrooms and a kitchen, and then the other portion is separate but within the same apartment, I guess you would say. And it is like a studio apartment of its own, but it all opens. It has one door and it opens into like an entryway, and then there are 2 doors that separate the 2 units. So you're all together. It's like being in a house that has an extra bedroom, sort of.
It's like a mother-in-law suite.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. That's a good way of putting it.
And we've actually, with our son when he was a teenager, that was one of the harder things. I think the transition is the younger kids, it's one thing, but once they start hitting that 15, 16, 17-year-old mark, to say, hey, well, you and your friends are going to have your own little suite over here, don't burn the place down. But,
It usually has like a microwave
Right,
and just like a sink. Yeah.
or those pizza rolls.
One time.
Okay.
People don't let me lift stuff down.
No, never. We'll make a meme of that one day too. All right. Didn't you have one other thing to mention?
Yes, I did actually. A good way that you can save money on a trip with your family, with your teens, is to look into staying in a family suite. A lot of hotels offer these now. I know that Disney has them, especially at a lot of the all-star resorts, which are value resorts anyway. Right. So if you look into those family suites, they're bigger, they have a little more room, and you can fit a few more people in there. And that's a really great way to save money.
Absolutely. And remember, we're always about saving the money.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I guess we're going to wrap it up for this episode. What do you think we should talk about next week?
I have no idea. I will pluck it from midair in just a minute. How about you?
Well, I was kind of thinking about maybe some things you need to know before you board an airplane.
Okay, so that's it.
How about 15 of them?
All right, 15 things you need to know before you fly domestically or internationally. We'll have to come up with them, but
no, we have a ton of stuff banked for this.
And once again, guys, we do appreciate your input and things like that. There were some great ideas from some people that we know. Hey, well, what about this? Or hey, what about that? And also, hit us up with any questions you have.
Yeah, questions, ideas.
Questions,
anything
ideas.
You want to hear us talk about?
Certain destinations. We certainly haven't been everywhere, but we've been to a lot of places.
Lot. Yes, absolutely. And remember, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and follow us on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel, and drop us a line. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear where you've been, where you're going, any ideas you have that you want to hear us talk about, and some of our experiences. Drop us a line. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you guys and carry on these conversations. So follow us, stay with us, and remember, Break the monotony.
not the bank.
Bye, guys.
Have a great week.